Welcome back to the Body Composition Coach podcast. This is episode 24. We are getting mightily close now to the end of series 1. Just one more episode to go after this. Listen, it might be the end of 2025 in recording this. You wouldn't know. Me sat here in my shorts. I assure you it's because the heating is on. Sat here in my shorts. We're getting towards the end of 2025 now. And as we reach the crescendo of the year, let's call it, I wanted to talk to you about something maybe a little bit more personal, but something that I think will help you in your fitness journey. Now, I'm not just going to tell you a personal story for no other reason. I'm not just going to overshare. I'm not an oversharer. I'm not just going to tell you things for the sake of it. I'm telling you this because I think it will help you to transfer over into your fitness, your training, your nutrition, your lifestyle, your habits, your behaviors, your mindset, all of those things that I talk about on a daily, probably hourly basis if you follow me quite closely. Before I do that, as always, we're getting to the end of series 1 now. And if you haven't yet left us a 5-star, I think we've had about 2,000 listeners at the point of recording. You guys have only seen maybe 18 episodes at the point of recording this, but we're 23 episodes in now. And I think at this point of recording, I think we've had about 2,000 listeners and we've had about 15 reviews, I think, maybe 20, something like that. Those numbers don't add up. So guys, I'm asking you, please, if you listen to the podcast, if you've taken something valuable away, if you've enjoyed an element of me talking at you for hours and hours on end by now, because if you're 23 episodes in, you've listened to hours and hours of my voice by now, just take 10 seconds, hit the 5-star, let us know what you thought, leave a comment, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify. It takes you 10 seconds, but it means the world to us in terms of bringing you series 2. Should we get stuck in? Like I said, this one's going to be a bit more personal. I'm going to overshare a little bit. Well, let's not say overshare. I'm just going to share. But I want, as we approach the end of 2025, I thought about how I can help you guys use this as a springboard into the new year. Share with you in the last 2 episodes of series 1 some more personal stuff as to how we ended up here, how Jono ended up here running Body Composition Coach, helping, I don't know how many people we've helped this year, and I really should at this point, but I promised to get that number. But we're into the hundreds of people. I'm debating how close we are to the thousands. Probably not quite there, but we've helped hundreds of people this year transform their life, change their body, change their mindset, get healthier, get fitter, get stronger, build muscle. We've helped hundreds. And you might be thinking, how did you end up here? Like, what brought you to here? And there was one thing, right? And everyone says this. All those gurus, they say, oh, this one thing changed my life. For me, it was like a culmination of things. But it was almost one thing in the aspect that it was a catalyst. I had a catalyst of some sort. So whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's get fitter, get stronger, lose body fat, lose weight, build muscle, whatever it is of those elements that you're aiming for, and I'm going to assume it's one of them, otherwise you wouldn't be here now. You need a catalyst for change. A catalyst for change is the reason you get out of bed in the morning. It's the drive, it's the motivation, it's your reason why. You probably heard me say, or other people say, you need to find your why. You need to find your reason for doing it. You need to have a strong enough catalyst to pursue something hard. And this might be quite controversial, but I genuinely believe it. And I want you to listen to what I'm going to say. I think that you need to hate the position you're in enough to use it as a catalyst for change if you're going to be successful in your fitness journey. If you're kind of okay with where you are and you don't have enough of a reason, hate's a strong word, I don't like using it, but you need to have a strong enough reason to pursue the goal, to get out of bed every morning, to choose hard, to make the hard decisions. You need to have a strong enough why. And if you don't, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle for whatever your fitness journey is. So here I'm going to talk to you about my catalyst. What drove me to this point where we have a company of 5, we have staff working for us, we have coaches working for us, we have hundreds of transformations, we speak on podcasts, we Well, you follow us, you know everything we do, right? So how did we end up here with this transformation company? Well, let's go back to when I was a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer, if you didn't know, and there is a difference between a personal trainer and an online coach. Not just that one's online and one's not. I was a personal trainer for about, well, give or take 11-ish years. So straight out of school, 16, I went to the local gym. Actually, I think it was 15 I started, but I wasn't qualified then. I went to the local gym and I just offered to volunteer. I think I went on work experience first, and then I just offered to volunteer. So when you're at school, you do work experience, you get to go, and I was like cleaning some machines and pretending I worked there really, but I was just kind of making coffee and cleaning some machines for a week. But it was great. Like being in the working world, if only you knew, right? Because you think this is amazing. I can't wait to finish school. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, cleaning these machines. And God, how amazing would it be if I was actually getting paid for this? So anyway, cleaning some machines, volunteering, doing my work experience, and then I started to volunteer. Every weekend, I would volunteer for free, give my time to just clean the machines and just be part of the environment. At 16, I qualified as a personal trainer. The gym, Grove Leisure Centre in Newark, if anyone knows it. It's been bulldozed now, but you might know it. I volunteered there every single weekend, gave them my time. They contributed to qualifying me as a personal trainer, and I started working there. I started personal training. I then went on to move to York. I worked at a gym called Ebor Fitness in York for a little while, if you know that. And then I went on to David Lloyd, kind of worked my way up the scale. So I went on to David Lloyd. I was at David Lloyd for about 7 years altogether, training clients, working on the gym floor as a PT. But also I progressed through to lead coach, it was called at the time. So lead coach was I was the top performing personal trainer. So I was the busy personal trainer. I had a bit of a waiting list. People wanted to work with me. I was popular, blow my own trumpet there for a second. But that's kind of how you end up being lead coach there. So then I end up doing the rotas. So my job as lead coach, which sounds really important at the time, you're the lead coach. I was basically just doing the rotas and dealing with like staff issues and moans and complaints and things like that. It wasn't really very fun, but I was doing that on top of the personal training. Personal training was still the thing that I loved and really enjoyed. And then the next level up from that is fitness manager. So I got promoted, I made it to fitness manager. I then had a team who really worked underneath me. So I had like a group exercise coordinator. I can't remember how they laid it out now. It was like a group exercise coordinator, like a class who ran all the classes and stuff, had all like 12 PTs underneath me. There was quite a big group of people underneath me. I suppose like the self-employed exercise instructors were officially underneath me, but they dealt with the group X instructor mainly, the group X coordinator mainly. That's kind of how I worked my way up. And at this point, I'm not really able to do that much PT anymore. They really capped me there. Most of my time, I was doing 40 hours a week as fitness manager. It was usually more. It was 5 a.m. get-ups. It was late night closes. And all of this I'm not going to tell you how much I was getting paid to do it, but it was probably the same as if I'd just worked at Argos. And listen, there's nothing wrong with working at Argos. I'm just saying it was probably like a minimum wage job. Someone's going to message and say Argos pay way more than minimum wage now, but you get the gist, right? So I was getting paid very, very little for the role. I was getting asked a lot of me, and I started to fall out of love with it. If I'm just completely honest, I thought I was falling out of love with the fitness industry. I thought I started to hate personal training. I don't like personal training anymore. I don't want to be in this gym anymore. I'm sick of being in between these four walls. That was the mindset that I almost got myself into. That was a mistake. That wasn't the truth. But that was the mindset I'd almost established. After this promotion, what I kind of realized is they didn't really give me much of a pay rise. I wasn't really being paid my worth. I was worth more than what they were offering me, mainly because I was a really good coach, and I knew I was a really good coach. But just because I'm a really good coach doesn't mean I'm a really good fitness manager, and I probably wasn't. I was very immature at the time. So anyone who worked for me then, I'm sorry. I probably wasn't a very good boss on reflection. Come and work for me now. Yeah, I'm great now. Joking. Probably wasn't a very good boss. So anyway, hated it. Didn't like it. I actually remember, funny story here. I actually remember one time I ran a team meeting and I was trying to think of like ways to make it fun. And I don't know how we got there. This is a genuine story, by the way. I don't know how we got there, but we ended up throwing like broccoli around a conference room, like some sort of broccoli fight. This is a genuine story. And anyone who who worked for me then or worked with me then, please do leave a comment and just back this story up if you remember, because this happened. We were throwing broccoli around for some reason. I don't know why. That was just one of my inventive ideas, I think. Awful ideas. Awful manager. But anyway, I then decided that, do you know what? They don't pay me enough to work here. I can earn more than this. I can be more important than this. I can show my worth more. And I went in the wrong direction. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say on a podcast about this. I think I need to be a little bit discreet. I've never really thought about this because I'm very open about things normally. But I went to work for the government. Let's just put it that way, right? So I went to work for the government, and as a civil servant, I remember I got the job and it was a lot more money than what I was being paid in the fitness industry. I was like, this is cool. Like, in this big government building, I moved to Bristol for the job. I was in this big government building. I was like, this is cool. Like, I've got this little tag that I've got to wear on my neck to scan in. I'd never worked in an office before. There's like a canteen and a coffee shop in this office. How amazing is that? You know, we can just sit in booths to have meetings. Like, how 2022 is that? But it was great. It was just before lockdown, actually. So God, it was way before 2022. It was like 2020, 2019, 2020, November 2019. I walked into the office for the first day, I remember. And all of these cool things that I thought were going to happen. Then I walked into the office. I remember walking in to my actual office, not the cool canteen area, and thinking, what have you done? And I loved, the people that I worked with were great. They were all really, really lovely people. But they weren't my people. They weren't the people who loved fitness, who loved training, who loved working hard, working out, collaborating together, having fun in the gym, being active, eating well, high protein lunches. They weren't that at all. And that's not a criticism of them. That's just not a lifestyle that they were living at the time. But it was mine. It was what I was used to. And I remember walking into that office and thinking, what on earth have you done here? Because there's no going back now. I didn't really burn my bridges with David Lloyd. I have a great relationship with people there. But I'd left. I'd moved cities. I'd gone. I just walked into what, for me, was absolute hell. Working in an office. And I know a lot of you listening to this will work in an office, and I apologize. It's nothing against you. It just wasn't me, right? It wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. So I worked there for a couple of years. Meanwhile, I was in a relationship. I was living with my partner at the time. And all of this stuff kind of came to a head. And this is where I'm getting to with this story. Now, you might be thinking, Johnny, this story's going on. Like, where are you going with this? Well, I'm getting to my catalyst, because the catalyst that happened for me was a culmination of a few things. I went into work one day and just moved teams. I was still at the government. I just moved teams, and there was a lady that I worked for. Her name was Fee. And I don't think she listens to this podcast, or I don't think she will ever hear this story, because I don't think she follows me on social media or anything. But if she does, let me tell you this. Fee changed my life. Because I sat there one day, and it makes me feel a little bit emotional thinking about it. I sat there one day, and she just turned and she looked at me. She was superior to me. She was a boss, right? She just turned to me. She was like, you shouldn't be here. Jono, you should not be here. And I was a little bit confused. I was like, well, is this how they let me go? Which they probably should have done with the amount of work I did. But she looked at me. She was like, Jono, you shouldn't be here. And I just kind of turned back to her. I was like, and hopefully she remembers this. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's happened? And she was like, I've never heard anybody talk about nutrition, training. She was into her training. I've never heard anyone talk about nutrition, training, mindset, gym, food, the way that you talk about it, with the passion that you show, the knowledge that you have, that you're able to share, how you light up. These were her words, how you light up when you talk about this stuff. You shouldn't be here. And I went home that night, and I didn't stop, even to this day, this was like 5 years ago, I still to this day don't stop thinking about that moment, because she was right. That for me was almost the catalyst of the catalyst. I was like, Fee's right. I shouldn't be here. I'm in the wrong place. I need to use, this was quite a low point for me, because I was really unhappy in that job. Add together, my relationship broke down at the time. So I had to leave the house. I was living at my sister's at nearly 30 years old by that point. I think I was 29. I was living at my sister's. My relationship had broken down. I was in a job that I hated, and I'd had a moment of realization that I should not be there. That is not my place. And this was my catalyst. I knew at that moment I had to do something, I had to change. And if we go all the way back to the start of this podcast, I said that I think you have to hate your position enough or hate the position you're in to want to change bad enough or hard enough. And I wanted to change hard enough because all of that stuff that culminated and the moment that Fee told me, you need to leave. This is not the place for you. I realized I'd made a really bad error, a really bad mistake. Over a period of time, over a period of years, moving through that management cycle at David Lloyd, the lead coach, the sports manager, into going into working for the government as a project manager, then, moving teams. I realized it all came to a head. So what happened? Well, I started BCC. The story of BCC, that's where it comes from. So I worked my way through as a PT, went to lead coach, went to sports manager, moved out, left the industry, thought I was doing the grown-up thing, and it all came to a head. My relationship broke down. My hate for my job became strong enough that I felt I couldn't be there anymore. I was told, you should not be here. This is not what you're passionate about. I was living at my sister's. So I did what any sensible 29-year-old would do. And I decided I'm moving to Barcelona. It's a genuine story. I'm moving to Barcelona. I packed my bags, said to my sister, I think my sister was pregnant at the time. I said to her, I was like, I'm off to Barcelona. I'm going to go live there for a bit and I'm just going to see how it is. And I'll go for a month and see how I get on. And then I'll probably just stay there. That was my thoughts. So I went to Barcelona. Now, I'd always been to Barcelona. I think this is like mid-June, peak summer. I was like, God, it's hot here. And I don't mind a bit of heat, but it was really, really hot. Problem with Barcelona then as well is not like Dubai or anything like that, is the air conditioning was pretty poor in a lot of the gyms and things like that. So it's really hard to train. The long story, if we make it short, is that it was just too hot. Like genuinely, I moved to Barcelona. I thought I was going to live a laptop lifestyle. This was my catalyst. I thought I was going to live a laptop lifestyle. I'd had my catalyst. I knew I needed change. I was like, that's going to be my change. I'm going to go all in on moving to Barcelona. And I realized it was too hot. I need to go home. But this all kind of played in. That's just a funny story. And it's true. It's a funny story that kind of goes alongside my catalyst. But this was all my catalyst for change. Now, this is how BCC was born. This is how you're listening to this podcast. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast now. Maybe you work with us. Maybe you have worked with us. Maybe you follow us. Maybe you've learned something from us. None of that would have happened if I didn't get to a point where I had to change. And when I get out of bed every morning right now, and it feeds into today, because when I get out of bed in the morning, I remember those times. I remember those management days at David Lloyd. I remember the days working for the government. I remember the breakdown of the relationship. I remember moving to Barcelona thinking I was going to change my life there. I remember all of this stuff. I remember those words that Fee said to me, you don't belong here. And I used it as a catalyst to grow BCC. I got into the shape of my life. I grew a business that I absolutely love. I have staff that I really genuinely care for. I have clients that I would run through a brick wall for. I have family, I have friends, I have relationships that mean the world to me. But all of that came from getting to a point where I felt low enough to go all in on it. If you're listening to this podcast and you are at that point, you are the lowest that you feel you can get. You're so unhappy with your position. You're unhappy with your body. You're unhappy with your life. You're unhappy with your mindset. You're sick of going around in circles. If you are listening and you are in that position, because I have been there, and people tell me it's all right for you, it's easy for you. You know how to do this stuff. You've always been into this. And believe me, listen to my story, because I have not always been in this position. I got to this position in the shape of my life, the happiest I've ever been, in the relationships that I deserve to be in, with the family I deserve to have, with the friendships I deserve to have. I got here because I hit that low and I used it as a catalyst. So consider what your catalyst is. Consider what your catalyst needs to be and use it for your example. So look, I hope you've enjoyed learning something a little bit about my story, about my journey to where we are here with BCC. It's not always easy speaking freely about your past and your life and how you got to where you are, but I'm hoping you've learned something about catalyst for change and using it for good. If you want to work with us, if you've hit that point, if you've hit that rock bottom, or you've hit the point where you're ready for change, you're ready to use it as a catalyst, all you have to do is reach out. Get to us on Instagram, Body Composition Coach, find the bio, click the link at the top of the bio, at the top of the page, You'll be able to apply to work with us. If you're right for what we do, if we can help you, we'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you. If you're ready to use this as a catalyst, if you're ready to make change happen, do it. Take action. Don't sit on it, because if I sat on it, I'd still be back working that government job, sat next to Fee. Well, maybe she'd have been promoted and moved on by then. She was great at her job. Maybe I'd still be there. Maybe I'd still be sat having those same conversations, wishing that I wasn't. But I use that catalyst for change, and you can do the same thing. You can use it for change. If you've learned something from this podcast, hit the like, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment. If you want there to be a second series, then I need you to leave us some 5-star reviews, because without it, we can't do series number 2. So I appreciate you as always. I'll see you for another personal episode on episode 25.